let's address something called recurrence, or other people, or you may know it as relapse. That's something that we always need to look at because unfortunately, sometimes recurrence is part of a long-term substance use journey. And so when that happens, if you find that you have picked up the substance again, or even if you're beginning to think about having that drink again, or if you're thinking about having to do that action again to make yourself feel better, let's talk about some of the ways that we can prevent that. So one of the things is that we identify our triggers. So for myself, I know that when I'm exhausted from work, I know that if I haven't gotten enough sleep, if I'm not eating correctly, if I'm not putting healthy things into my body, drinking enough water, that is going to be eventually a trigger or triggers for me to where I may think about starting to have a drink again because I don't know any other quick way to make myself feel better. But because of that self-evaluation and really thinking about what are the triggers to me, I can avoid those types of things happening. And so the other things that we can talk about are, even once you have identified those triggers, what do you do? When your anxiety gets high, if you're working in your place of organization, what are you going to do if you start to feel anxious or you feel like you need to get out of there or you don't think that you have any other options? So we talk about something called grounding techniques. And one of the ones that I want to tell you about is something that you can do anywhere and no one even knows that you are doing it. So when you start to feel anxious, which is a primary trigger for substance use, relapse or recurrence, you want to start thinking about sight, sounds, or any of those kind of adaptive things that we can see, feel, and hear. So if you think about 3 things or 3 colors that you see, so automatically you're telling your brain to think about something other than the feeling that you are experiencing. So if I look around this room, 3 colors, I see black, I see ivory, and I see blue. Okay, so that's easy. I'm still not feeling better, right? So I think about 3 things that I'm hearing. I can hear a lawnmower, I can hear the echo of my voice, and I can hear movement in the room. And so you go through the senses. So you can do sight, you can do sound, you can do touch, you can touch your own clothes. If you're driving, the feel of the leather or whatever the covering is on your steering wheel. And then you go through those senses. If you're sitting down in a meeting and you can't get up and you start to feel that anxiety rising and you know that's a trigger for you, when you get home that night, press your feet into the ground. Take a deep, slow breath for 4 seconds. Hold it in for 5 seconds and release for 7. And it's those simple techniques like that you can repeat over and over and over, and no one even knows that you're doing them. And eventually, the central nervous system will start to relax and calm down because it can't do 2 things at once. It cannot feel fear, and your mind cannot think at the same time. So to stop those automatic trigger reactions, we start to focus on other things. Another thing that I would advise you to do is to look into mindfulness meditation to do every single day. And that will look differently for everyone. It may take an app that you find on your phone that guides you through a meditation. It may even just be a walk in the morning around your house or on your lunch break where all you're doing is thinking about sights and sounds outside, or if you're on a walking treadmill in your office, the sound of the motor running, the sound of your fingers typing on the computer, on the keyboard, if that's something that you need to walk while you're accomplishing a certain task. Those are all things that at the end of the day that can prevent a recurrence from happening. And again, I also encourage that you reach out to someone and have those numbers and those peoples and those familiar spaces available to you before the crisis happens. And if that does occur, again, I encourage you to text or call 988. Reach out to your local mental health authority like Betty Hardwick Center or your personal therapist or counselor. Or you can even reach out to an entity like Abilene Recovery Council that has outreach screening and assessment. We have peer recovery support specialists. We have prevention for families and parents with children 6 years and under. And there's a variety and multitude of organizations in this town that can guide you and lead you to the correct area that you need to go in to receive help.